Hello there, Adam here, and we are looking at episode 2 of the pack kit build. So before I get fired up and started, I want to first remind you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for anything that's going on. If you like what you see, leave a comment. If you don't like what you see, leave a comment. I like to hear your input. I like to hear what you have to say, and I do my best to answer every single comment along the way. Now let's talk a little bit about what I've done since the last time I was on camera and this time since I've been on camera. Well, there was a big gap. I didn't do a lot of RC, but I did do this. I started removing some parts that I'm not going to be using off of this pack kit. This is the battery tray. I'm not going to use that. These are the springs. I'm not going to use them. These are the bumpers. They weren't on it, but they came with it. I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to use that. So what I am going to use is essentially what is before you here. It's just a stripped down version of the chassis with only the bare minimum and what I want. Now you might say, hey Adam, why aren't you using any springs? And the reason for that is that when the ride height is up higher, like it would be with springs, your truck has a higher center of gravity. And since I want a comp truck, I want this truck slammed to the ground as low as possible, and I will make up for that difference here with the portal axles. Additionally, I've run all my comp trucks this way for a very long time and I've had great success. Once you learn the different driving style associated with a full droop setup, there's really no going back. In a future episode, I will show you exactly how I set up my shocks for full droop, which means that your shock is fully compressed at ride height and can only extend downward. There is no up travel in your shock when you're just driving. That allows your truck, as I said, to keep a low center of gravity and hug those rocks to the best of its ability. For this episode, I will be installing some electronics, and my electronics here may look like a jumbled mess of wires and used stuff. That's kind of what it is. However, this jumbled mess of wires and used stuff is stuff that I have sitting around that I can put into this truck that will be more than what it actually probably needs and more than sufficient for it to work really well. So let's talk a little bit about each piece of electronics and exactly what it is and why I've chosen it in the past, and also why I think it'll be a good fit for this build. First off, let's talk about my servo. Now, this is an old servo. I believe Hi-Tech has changed their part number and they don't offer it this way anymore. This is the 7950TH if you're looking for it. This Hi-Tech servo offered somewhere around the 500 ounce-inch of torque at 7.4 volts or 7.2 volts. I can't remember specifically. My BEC is set up to run one of those two voltages, and we'll talk a little bit about a BEC in a minute. This servo has done me quite well. It was in my class 3 for a couple of years. It was a very successful servo. It turned some big wheels and tires, and I'm not going to need it to turn that big of wheels and tires on this truck, but it's going to do exactly what I need it to do. Let's talk about my servo winch and winch controller. My servo winch is a Hand of God winch by Precision RC Works. You can get them at RC Addict. This is one of the initial prototype Hand of God winches, and it has been in and out of trucks of mine for the last 3 to 4 years with no issues whatsoever. This one is a free spool and does free spool. However, I rarely use it because the winch is so fast. It does a great job, very powerful winches, and I highly recommend checking those out. Again, I'll put that link in the description. You can link to the RC Addict store. If you use code ADAM, you can get 10% off your purchase. This little guy right here, this green tiny little cube, is the Dragon winch controller. This Dragon winch controller is from RC Addict. It allows you to run whatever voltage your battery is passed through this and straight to your servo winch. Meaning that when I run 14 volt batteries, or I believe they're rated to 11.1 volts, which is a 3-cell, when you run a 3-cell battery through there, all of your voltage is going straight to the servo. This little guy right here packs a big punch and really awakens the Hand of God winch. Next, let's talk about the speed control and motor setup. and I've got it kind of as a mess because it came out of something else. My motor currently that I'm going to run in this is one of the Castle Slate motors. I can't remember which kilovolt it is. It doesn't state on here. Either way, it's a 4-pole brushless motor, again available off of RC Addict. That's where mine came from. And I'm running it with a Holmes Hobby BLE Pro. So the BLE Pro is a brushless or brushed speed control that's capable of, I believe, 6 cell lipos as a max. And it will run these motors at a pretty good clip. Now, I've always run mine on 4-cell lipos. All of these electronics have been run off of a 4-cell with great success. However, I don't recommend that because that is far exceeding what a lot of their limitations state according to their manufacturer. Now, in here you can see I have a FlySky receiver. I run a FlySky remote. I run the GT3C hacked by RC Addict, and it allows for tons of adjustability. It allows you to have multiple models up to like 8 channels, and it's a great value for what you need to do, especially in crawling. I know that people have some pros and cons associated with the FlySkys and especially the hacked FlySkys. However, I've not experienced any cons as of yet. And then the last piece of goodness here that I have is inside of all of this black. Now, it has been waterproofed with black liquid electrical tape. Not my preferred waterproofing method, but at that time that's what I was trying out. And this is a Castle BEC, the 10 amp BEC that pretty much everyone runs. They're about $20 typically, a 10 amp BEC, and they do a phenomenal job. So I'm going to take this pile of electronics, dirty, old, rusty, crusty electronics, and put them inside of this brand new truck. And the goal is to have this thing running by the end of this video. So join me along with that process. Okay, we're back from doing all of the work of putting in all of the electronics and so on and so forth. Now, it's not in here perfectly. However, it's in here good enough for me to know that I've got some clearance stuff that I can take care of. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's not in here perfectly. Well, one of the problems I've got going on right now, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see it, is that the pinion itself on the motor has a stripped screw. So I need to get that out. So I can't really like fire it up and let it rip tonight because I got that issue going on there. I'll get that issue going on. I'll get it fixed. It's not a big deal. It's not something I've never dealt with before or anything like that. I'll get that pinion off of there and get another one installed and get that up and running. Additionally, I didn't hook up the steering link in the front to the servo horn. I'm pretty sure you all could figure that out. You just take the servo horn off, you turn your receiver on, you let your servo center, you put your center as close as you can, install your steering link, bada bing, bada boom, it's all done. Alright, but here's what we were really after. You also notice that I didn't put in my servo winch. Now, there's 2 reasons why I didn't put in the servo winch. Number 1, it wasn't just a plug and play kind of fit. I'm gonna have to do a little fabrication to make it work, and if I want to do that, I will do that and I will make it work. Reason number 2 has everything to do with the body and body clearance and how I want to hack up either the body or the chassis. In case you haven't noticed, I've got this issue where I have some frame rail protruding from the front of my truck. Now I plan on doing a little more body trimming up here, but also I thought about taking this frame rail off. However, unlike with an Axial or any of the other trucks that I've ever built, It's not an easy just remove this little tiny piece of plastic on the frame rail here and call it good. If I do that, now I've got to make my bumpers mount back here in this flat part, but as you can see, that is where this servo is, so we run into an issue. In the rear, you'll notice that my length is a little bit excessive. Again, 100% okay, no big deal. I plan on lengthening this body to fit the stock wheelbase. I'm going to do that because I'm going to do some pretty heavy modification to this body here in the near future. The other thing that I needed to do was check some clearance inside of here. In case you didn't know, I'm planning on turning this body that is a van into a truck, and specifically a truck with a bed that is a drop bed. The goal there is that I need to make a cab section and a truck bed section, which will allow me easier access to lengthening the rear portion of this body, which is why I'm not worried at all about that. When I go to make the truck bed, I'll just section in some side panels, extend things out, and I'll make all my bed stuff and so on and so forth. It won't be a major issue. However, I needed to make sure that I could bury all of my electronics no more than through the second door here, so that I can have a double cab truck. As you can see, if you look inside of here, I should have no problems putting all my electronics up here inside of the two doors that will remain the portion of the cab. Now, I think at this point I could give you some hints as to what exactly I'm planning on doing with this body. However, those all could change depending on how my wheels and tires set up. If my wheels and tires go on the way that I'm hoping and I have all the clearance that I want, we shouldn't have any issues. If they don't, then I have to rethink things. So there's a kind of a process when you're building a custom truck to making everything work. I like to start in the heart of everything that is going on, making sure that I have all of this stuff in here. It doesn't have to be where it's supposed to be in the end. Doesn't have to be all mounted up, doesn't have to be perfectly well placed, because I can do all of that later. What it has to do is be here and be somewhat near where it's going to be so that I can figure out what I'm going to do with it and how. This round of building, although it doesn't seem like a lot, allows me to take a lot of steps in the next direction. The next video you will see from me will be putting together some wheels and tires for test fitting purposes and making sure that things go where they need to, how they need to, and work in the way that they need to, especially for clearance on this body. Then, after I know where that stuff lays, I can begin chopping up this hard body, which will again be future further episodes. So I hope you enjoyed what you saw. It was a pretty down and dirty quick, like, just throw these in here, make sure that everything fits somewhat near where it's supposed to be and allows for what's going on. My goal here was to show you that when you are building a truck that has any kind of custom pieces and fabrication, there are some steps that you can take to make your life a little easier. If you start with the chassis and the electronics and you take all of those things that have to be there and you put them in there and you build around them, it will allow you to make a much cleaner, nicer build, and you won't have to sacrifice this stuff, the important things, for looks or style. You see, I can make this body fit however I want. What I can't do is make this stuff change. I can't change my electronic size and footprint and all of that nearly as easily as I can change the footprint of this body. This is just some plastic. I can cut it up, glue it back together, do a little sanding, and we're good to go. If you have any questions, comments, hit me up in that comment section down below. Make sure that you like this video and you hit that subscribe button and alert bell if you haven't already done so. That kind of keeps our numbers bumping up here, keeps growing this community, and allows more people to see what we have going on. Last but not least, check out my video description for an awesome code to rcaddict.us. rcaddict has a bunch of great parts and pieces. Much of what you see here has come from rcaddict, including the Redcat chassis, my electronics. I mean, pretty much everything that you have in front of you has come from there. They're also one of my great sponsors, and you can use promotional code ADAM at checkout to save 10% off your purchase. That is an affiliate link, and it does give me a very small kickback in order for what's going on there. I will be straight up front with all of you on that. However, it gives you a 10% discount, and what's good for you is good for me, and it's good for all of us. So without any further ado, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to catch you all next time on episode 3 of the Pack Kit Build series. Thank you. I'll catch you guys all later.